right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, where I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Today is Monday, October 23rd, 2023. I just want to go into this article. And it reads, Oppenheimer envisioned the tactical use of nuclear weapons. Putin now threatens it. So, I'm just going to go into this article a little bit, bring out another article, bring out a few scriptures, Lord willing. This lesson is edifying and straight to the point. Excuse me. It says, for a Hollywood blockbuster, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer does an effective job of portraying the father of the atomic bomb as a complex, multifaceted human being, driven by a combination of arrogance and self-doubt and facing profound moral dilemmas. The movie, which debuts next month on most North American streaming platforms, alludes not just to the story of the race to build the bomb, but also the subsequent debate over whether to go beyond the development of fission weapons to create the super or hydrogen bomb based on nuclear fission. J. Robert Oppenheimer famously opposed the H-bomb, partly on moral grounds, and the other critics view its capacity for nearly unlimited explosive power rendered it useful only for mass murder of civilians. He also opposed it as a competitor to use Slukia. He also opposed it as a competitor to other uses of nuclear materials than in short supply for military purposes. But for all his moral concerns, Oppenheimer was not an anti-nuclear dove. The movie hints Oppenheimer's concern that the H-bomb project would divert resources from the fission-based nuclear weapons he preferred to build, but sometimes obscures it. Nolan's Oppenheimer speaks vaguely of international control of atomic energy, yet the scientist's efforts to promote such initiatives had failed by 1946. Asked how to respond to the first Soviet atomic test of August 1949, the movie's Oppenheimer answers arms talks, but the real Oppenheimer knew that negotiations by then were a lost cause, owing both to Soviet intransient or Soviet intransigence and U.S. commitment to staying ahead in a nuclear arms race. The movie doesn't make clear enough the reality that Oppenheimer played a key role in the expansion of the U.S. nuclear weapons program. Oppenheimer was particularly active during the early 1950s in the development of so-called tactical nuclear weapons, that is, weapons intended not to be dropped on cities but rather deployed against targets of military relevance. That we worry today about Russian Vladimir Putin's threat to use nuclear weapons to alter the course of the war in Ukraine, and that the nuclear armed North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, might respond in kind owes much to Oppenheimer's promotion of what became known as nuclear plenty. In the wake of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Oppenheimer initially shared the common view that the weapon's only purpose was to inflict mass casualties on civilians by attacking cities. In May 1946, he wrote to President Harry Truman to oppose the planned series of tests of atomic weapons at the Bikini Atoll. Operation Crossroads, as it was called, was intended to test the effects of the weapons against naval vessels. Oppenheimer wrote, "Surely the overwhelmingly effectiveness of atomic weapons lies in their use for the bombardment of cities and of centers of production and population." He thought the study of the impact on naval forces by comparison trivial and a waste of money. Truman consulted Dean Acheson, then acting U.S. State Secretary, about how to respond to this letter from a crybaby scientist. The president's standard epithet that found its way into Nolan's movie. So pretty much I'm just going into that. So if you want to pretty much read this, is going to be on the bulletin. So I'm going to bring out this article as well that I thought was interesting. It says Pakistan test fires Ababil nuclear missile. It says Pakistan has test fired an Ababil missile capable of carrying multiple warheads that can attack different targets. Pakistan last tested the multiple independently targeted re-entry vehicles capable weapon on January 24th, 2017. The military's media branch, Inter Services Public Relations Pakistan, stated Wednesday's test was meant to revalidate various design technical parameters and performance evaluation of different subsystems, and was aimed at a strengthening deterrence and enhancing strategic stability in the region. The Strategic Plans Division, which handles Pakistan's nuclear deterrent, did not respond to Defense News requests for information about the latest tests. In 2017, the Public Relations Organization stated the Ababil had a 2,200 kilometer, 1,367 mile range and was developed to ensure the survivability of Pakistan's ballistic missiles in a region in which state actors are bolstering countermeasures. So pretty much, Pakistan has just, tested their nuclear weapons as well, because Russia, they're going to go back to testing, you have North Korea, still testing their nuclear missiles as well. But, again, this is just a time that we're in a time of war, because we're vastly approaching World War III. But again, before that time comes, the prophecy of Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16, Slakia, the mandatory implementation of the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip, it has to come to pass, before this war can officially take place, you know. So I'm going to start in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and as you can see, the headline reads, "A time for everything," and indeed it is, a time for everything. So it's Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1, and it says, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which was planted or that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to be healed, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to distance." It's like in a time to dance, "a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak." And this is the point right here I want to make: a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. So yes, pretty much that's the time that we're in. Even in verse 7, it says a time to speak and a time to keep silence. Well, right now, we're in that time to speak, because again, the warning is going out, because our Lord Yahweh Shai is coming back, and again, it's going to coincide with, World War III, because in the midst of these nations going to war, our Lord is going to return to go to war with these nations as well, so that warning is going out, And then we're also in a time of hate, because you can clearly see all the things that's happening. You still have division amongst these other nations, even here in America alone. We're pretty much in a time of hate. And then obviously, we're in a time of war, because that's what you're hearing about. You're hearing about wars happening, and wars that are going to happen. Slakia, so I'm going to jump to the book of Matthew, chapter 24 and verse 6, and it says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." And yes, this is just the beginning. Now, even though, you still have the Ukraine and Russia still at war with each other, you have, Hamas going to war with, the Israelis, this isn't the end yet, But again, the Israelis is pretty much going to bring out these other nations, Slakia, and bring this out. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49 and verse 20, and it says, "Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them." So yes, the least of the flock, those Israelis, they're ultimately going to cause World War III, speaking as a man. But, Israel is, the land of Israel, because, you have America protecting that land, and those people over there that aren't the actual people, but pretty much, they're going to do something which is going to cause, America and Russia to ultimately get involved and to start World War III, you know, because ultimately that nation is going to be the driving force behind World War III, getting started officially, because it's happening. But, again, it's not official because, again, Russia isn't involved and the United States. Slovakia and the United States isn't involved yet, or at least fully, because it's ultimately going to come down between those two nations, Babylon the Great and the land of Gog and Magog, the bear. It's really going to be down. It's really going to be in between these two nations, and Russia is going to defeat, Babylon. It's lucky because I was thinking about something and slipped my mind, but bring this out because ultimately Esau, he wants to fulfill his new world order, but the Lord is only going to let him get so far, and then ultimately he's going to take him out of power. So this is the book of Job, chapter 20, and I'm going to start at verse 22. Says, in the fullness of his sufficiency he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. When he is about to fill his belly, Yahweh shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and he shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So yes, as soon as Esau thinks that he is going to completely fulfill his new world order, the Lord, like he says, he's going to cast that fury upon him, which is ultimately going to be those ICBM missiles, because again, that's what they're talking about, in that article, because J. Robert Oppenheimer is just one of many of those German scientists. Even if he isn't German, he's one of those many scientists, that were around during World War II to develop these weapons that pretty much, what they have become now. They've pretty much went from, hydrogen bombs to atomic bombs to nuclear missiles, missiles that don't have to be flown, or pretty much nuclear capabilities that don't have to be flown over a city and dropped. They can travel from one end of the earth to another, Verse 24, it says, he shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. It is drawn and cometh out of the body, yea, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him, and yes, that's describing those ICBM missiles, and that's what's going to be used during World War III, So just real quick, I'm going to go to the book of Revelation, chapter 11, and verse 14, and it says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Yes, as we can see, things are ramping up, but again, before this war can officially take place, before this destruction happens, the mark of the beast has to be made mandatory. People have to accept the mark. It's like you're a little excited. People have to accept the mark of the beast. Those that are slated to get the mark of the beast, they're going to get it and ultimately be destroyed, in this war. But again, the second war is past, World War II and World War III is coming quickly, And I'm going to jump to the book of Isaiah, chapter 54 and verse 16, because ultimately, this particular verse is talking about, J. Robert Oppenheimer and those scientists that created these weapons, you know. So this is Isaiah 54 and verse 16. It says, Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. And yes, that's talking about these nuclear capabilities that, primarily Russia and the United States have, these ICBM missiles, you know, because between these two countries, these two nations have the most nuclear warheads, and that's pretty much what this is talking about, J. Robert Oppenheimer is one of those scientists. He's a Smith, It's like this, they called him the father of the H bomb. It's like you have to go back and look at it, but pretty much, again, he became, notable. This man pretty much made history because, again, the same weapon that he's created, to pretty much destroy, because ultimately Esau was blessed with the sword, and that ultimate sword being these nuclear weapons, these same capabilities that he's created, to really do damage to other nations or cities, and the same thing is going to be used to be taken out of power with, those missiles. So I'm just going to end it on this. I didn't want to make this one too long, but, this is what's coming, The third war is coming quickly, the mark of the beast is also on the way, So I'm going to end it on this. This is the book of Malachi chapter 4 and verse 1. And it says, For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day cometh, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that I shall leave them neither root nor branch. And yes, America is going to be hit with millions of nuclear warheads, and it's going to melt this land, It's going to melt the elements. But ultimately, it's going to destroy this land and it's going to be left desolate, Going back to the book of Isaiah chapter 34, which is giving a brief description on how America, aka Babylon the Great, is going to look after this destruction takes place, It's going to be left completely desolate, no man will ever dwell in this land again. And it's going to be left as a memorial, the same as Sodom and Gomorrah was. The only difference is it's going to be way greater, than Sodom and Gomorrah being destroyed. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, by Shemer Kakwadash. I'd like to give them honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from, and I like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till the next time I say Shalom.